Hello and welcome to Full Follow with me today. I have Riley and I'm sorry, you can tell me your name.
Riley.
Riley. How are you guys?
We're good.
Good. How are you?
Can't complain. So why don't Riley start and tell us a little bit of why you got in racing?
Well, I just started racing about 3.5 years ago. My dad has raced his whole life basically on motorcycles. And when I was 16, I just decided that I wanted to race, but I wanted to race with my dad. And he was never really a fan of me racing on two wheels, so he put me in go-karts. So we started doing that about 3.5 years ago, and we'd race together, just local stuff. And then we started to realize that we were pretty good at it. So we started to move up and do nationals and got really good in that. And then 2 years ago, I started racing cars for the first time. I raced in the Porsche Sprint Challenge for a full year and ended up fourth in the championship. And then this past year, we started racing in IMSA in the Michelin Pilot Challenge and did the last few rounds of that. And it went very well. So we've decided we're going to start our own family run team and do the full IMSA thing next year.
So really let me kind of feed off of what she could say and ask you, what does it mean to have your daughter racing with you?
Well, I would say it's terrible and I don't like it, but I'd be lying. So I mean, for me, I don't like her to know it, but I mean, I kind of would do anything to go racing with my kids, and I feel really blessed to be able to race my whole life. I made a good living racing motorcycles, and then I was retired, and then my oldest daughter decided she wanted to do some go-karting. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. We'll just do local go-karting. But like anything I have kind of done in the past, it got blown out of proportion real quick. And now we're racing in, 3 years later, we're racing in the IMSA series together. So, when she did the car racing the 2 years ago with MDK. It was good, and it was nerve-wracking, but we ended up doing a endurance race at Mid Ohio together, just in a Mazda Miata at the end of the year before last. And she just said to me, she's like, I had more fun doing that endurance race with you, Dad, than I did, doing the sprint races by myself. So we decided to do a couple endurance races last year, which somehow morphed into, from doing like WRL or AER kind of inexpensive races. Somehow we ended up all the way in the IMSA series, and it was good. So we did 3 races this past year, and now we're gonna race the full series this year.
Starting with Daytona, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
Daytona in January. We're actually going to Daytona in like 3 weeks to test for 2 days, because we have a new car. We're racing a Hyundai. Last year we raced an Audi, and that car was outdated as of this year. It was a Gen 1 Audi. So now we're racing a Hyundai that we got from Brian Herta Motorsports. So we actually have the car that won the last 2 races of the series last year that we bought at the end of the year. So it'll be our first time in the car here in about 3 weeks down at a David Murray test at Daytona.
Wow. So Riley, what does it mean to race with your dad? I'll feed off of what your dad just said.
It's been really awesome. It really just helped our relationship as a whole because when I was like 15 or 16, we just like didn't really have anything in common. And then now that we've started racing together, we have everything in common and we can just talk about racing all the time and we're always on the road together and always just finally have a friendship that most teenage girls don't really get to have with their dad.
Yeah, and I'll feed off of what you just said. So you must be 16, 17,
I'm 20,
Cunning. Okay.
but I
So,
started when I was 16.
okay. Started with you at 16. That's where I got 16 from.
Yeah.
So, what was it like for you, Larry? What was it like when she said, you know what, I want to pick up what you do and go racing? What was that conversation like?
Well, for me, it was at that time when she was 15, 16 years old, I think I had a typical 15-year-old daughter relationship. Her face was stuck in her phone and we never talked. So it was nice, but I thought it would end up being just we got, some Briggs and Stratton 206s and went to the local track and had fun a few times a year, but it just that's what it started out to be. But by the end of that first year, we went to a couple of national races by the end of the year and moved up to the 100 class, and it quickly became apparent that she really liked it. And what was really cool for me as a dad was she was also at that age pretty anxious and pretty reclusive. She didn't really want to do anything, which I see with a lot of the teenage girls that were her friends, and they're very, I think as a society, obviously with the phones, we've definitely shied away from being more out and getting things done, especially the kids. So it was neat for me because as she progressed in the racing and got better and started racing against boys that were faster, and then she'd get as fast or start beating them, she started to get a lot more confidence as well, just in her personal life, and was able to do things that she wasn't able to do before. And it's just kind of really been awesome for me as a dad to see my daughter kind of come out of her shell, where I was a bit worried, is this girl going to be able to make it in the real world, to wow, now she's kicking everybody's butt.
And Riley, what was that conversation like? Like you must have had to think about what you wanted to say to your dad, how you wanted to go about it. And I know from conversations I've had with my father about racing, he's like really enjoys what I do with full throttle on. And that conversation of, oh, I'm going out on my own, having my own YouTube channel was like, go for it, son. Was was there any no's when you went to your dad and said, I want to race, or was that conversation pretty easy?
I think it was a pretty easy conversation just because of who my dad was and like his experience in racing. If he hadn't been racing his whole life, I think he would have been way more nervous with a daughter saying she wants to start racing at 16 years old. But he was honestly really excited. He was ready to go. He like the as soon as wanted to start racing, he bought the carts and we were like at the track the next weekend. Um, but yeah, like he was just very excited and he was happy, honestly, that I didn't want to race a dirt bike or a super bike or something. He was like, okay, a go-kart or a car, I can handle that.
And Larry talked to us about what what your family has meant in your career up to this point. I know we talked about a lot about your daughter, but basically, is the mom and the wife very supportive in your racing, or how does that go?
Yeah, so for me, I started racing when I was 3 years old. My grandpa raced, my dad raced. So I just at 3 years old was racing motorcycles. And so it was a way of life with me, and my mom and dad have been basically essentially at every race I've ever raced almost, and they still to this day, my mom and dad go to every race that she does or every race we do together. My wife goes to almost all of them. My younger daughter, Sophie, who's just turned 16, is really heavily into basketball. So they'll miss some of the events, because Sophie's doing basketball and still in school. But other than that, as a family, we kind of go to all the events. And, when I raced motorcycles the last several years of my motorcycle career, I owned the team that I raced for, and it was basically a family run team. My dad drove the semi and my mom did the hospitality, and we had a lot of mechanics, but it was really a family based team. And then the team that we're building now, again, for the car racing, same thing. It's a professional team and we have paid mechanics, but it's still very family oriented, and that's the way we've always done things.
So, Riley, talk to us about your relationship now with all your family and how supportive your mom is when you said, Mom, Dad, I want to go racing. What? what was
Mom,
mom?
not as much.
Yeah, my dad was super supportive when I wanted to start racing and my grandparents and everyone, but my mom was kind of like, I thought we were kind of ending this with your dad. I didn't know we were going to start doing this with you too. So she's kind of like how I am, a little bit anxious about things and she kind of worries. But overall, she's very supportive and my grandparents are very, very supportive. And it's just it's a great support system that we have.
So talk to us. What was the recent conversation like when you both said, you know what, let's go um to Daytona to INSA and race INSA together? What was that conversation like? Was that did you bring that up or did he bring that up, Riley?
I think that was kind of a decision that we made together. Like
Yeah.
we did a few races this year in that series just to kind of get our foot in the door and see how we felt. And we ended up doing very well for the 3 races that we did. We had a lot of problems with the car, but driving wise and team wise, we did very well. And I think we decided kind of right at the second race that this is something we want to do all next year and go all the way in and do the full series.
Yeah, it was definitely the first race we did was at Road America, and we ended the race 4 laps down. We had to have 2 extra pit stops. We had all kinds of problems, so it was kind of like, hey, maybe we're in over our head. And then at the second race at Indianapolis, we were running third with 6 minutes left, and we ended up having to come in for a splash and go on fuel, or otherwise we would have finished. A good chance we would have finished on the podium. So after that, we are like, okay, now we need to get a little bit better car and a little bit better everything, and next year let's go full steam. So we're under no illusion that we're going to jump into a series like the IMSA series and be winning races right away. But we want to learn as much as we can this year and try to be competitive as we can, and maybe try to get in a podium position by the end of the year, and then obviously continue on further and try to move up the ranks within the next couple of years. So the IMSA series in general and everybody at the Daytona Motorsports Group basically has been awesome to us coming in as kind of newcomers. I thought maybe we'd come in there and there would be some, hey, this is the top endurance series. Don't come in here and until you're ready. But they were very accommodating and worked with us to help us to kind of learn the ropes of a very regulated series and a very high end series. But they were great to us.
So I guess for Riley, um, so are you nervous or are you like, Dad's going with me, Dad's going to be my supporter, Dad's going to be my teammate? How do you feel about going into next season?
I feel really good about going into this season. I was definitely nervous last year, but I think we're definitely ready this year and I'm a lot less nervous. And I obviously have my dad as a very good support and he understands everything that I'm feeling because it's not like he's just there. He's in the car too. Like we change drivers and he has to be in the same car that I'm in. So he wants it to be the best that it can be and he wants the team to run as smoothly as possible. So I think I think I'm a lot less nervous for sure than last year.
And so, two more questions for each of you, and then we'll wrap up. But my next question for you, Larry, is so talking about your daughter and all the things she's ever done, is this the most I guess proud you would be about where she is in her young racing career? And are you proud to be alongside her, driving alongside her in the Inter series? And what is your outlook for the year with her? What would be a successful year for you guys? I guess.
Yeah, for me, I mean, saying I'm proud is an understatement, obviously. I mean, she continues to, I always joke that I throw her in the deep end and she keeps coming up swimming because I forget sometimes that she hasn't been racing her whole life, and most of the guys that we're racing against in this series have been, and the one thing you can't make up for in a hurry is racing experience. The way you get racing experience is to be on the track racing. You can practice all you want, you can set on the sim all you want, but the only way to get racing experience is to do it. And she continues to impress me with her level, just constantly moving in the right direction. We'll show up at a new track that she doesn't know and she'll struggle. And I'll be like, man, I don't know if she's going to get there. And then I'll think, she's not going to get to where we need to be. And then all of a sudden she'll surpass what I thought and go even quicker than I thought she was going to go. So she does a lot of things that impress me. A lot of times I look at her driving and my driving, and I'll say she's going to end up being better than I am because she does things a lot more methodical and a lot calmer than I do. And that's the way to learn. If you can be a calm, methodical driver, when you get yourself to that pace, you're basically unstoppable. So I'm impressed with how she's doing, and sometimes I gotta pull myself back a little bit and say, okay, like I told her after Indy when we were running third, I go, this was kind of a deal where we were way ahead, we were a little out of our element there. We shouldn't be running third yet, so don't be thinking that we're going to be third every weekend. And but I think that being said, I'm super proud of how she's doing. And then as far as next year goes, I tell her too. I say, hey, listen, we're doing this to enjoy ourselves. So let's remember to have fun because at Atlanta we struggled a little bit after getting third at Indy, and she was getting down and I was a little down. And I'm like, listen, we're here to have fun. We're not supposed to be running up front in these things yet. Let's remember that we're having fun. And for me, I'm having a great time. I love racing. I really don't know what else to do in life. I've been doing it for so long. So it's great that she's involved in it and that we can keep doing it as a family, and I'm not having to go racing by myself, so to speak, and the family tagging along. It's more of it's a true family race deal right now.
And before I jump into my final question for you, Riley, uh, do you have anything to carry on what your dad was saying there?
I don't know. I think I'm just really happy with where we're going and what direction we've been heading as a as a duo, as a team, basically. We've definitely shown a lot of improvement, and I think that we're heading on the right track. We just need more time.
So, I guess I have one more question for each of you. I'll start with you, Riley, and then she can wrap it up. But I would say um on a scale from 1 to 10, how nervous are you for this season, or or is it kind of like I'm going to battle with my daughter? I could not be any happier. Let's get Christmas, let's get the new year over, and let's hit the ground running. Are you looking forward to hit the ground running next year and seeing how you guys do, or are you kind of glad that you guys have the off season to regroup as a family, do Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the holiday stuff that are coming up, and I guess, and are you wishing that day one would get here sooner rather than later?
I think for me, it seems quick the off season because I've been racing, like I said, all my life, and we used to get done about the same time, October early. But we never had our first race was always Daytona for the bikes, but it was always in March during bike week. So we had a much longer off season, and the car one, we're in January, so the off season is basically 1 month almost, really. So. I'm really excited to get in the new car and in the Hyundai and see how we do. We knew we were at a slight disadvantage last year with our car because it was a bit older. So it'll be nice to be in an equal car with someone and see where we're at. And then as far as getting nervous, I don't get that nervous. I mean, yeah, if I'm in the car and it's a warm-up lap for the race, I have some nerves, but I've been doing it for so long. I don't quite get nervous, but I get probably more nervous when she's in the car. And especially, you know, at the IMSA races because she usually drives first, and I've been just a little bit quicker than her, so I'm the second driver. So she qualifies the car, and I probably get the most nervous during qualifying because I know that she's pushing, and that's when, things can happen. And I get nervous when she's in a big pack of people too, when there's a big group. But I mean, that's any father, I guess, would do that. But I have a lot of confidence in her ability when she gets in those situations to really have a really good head on her shoulders and a good control over her spatial awareness or where everybody's at and everything. She seemed to be really, really learning quickly, not to get herself in a situation that causes a wreck. I mean, you're always going to have wrecks sooner or later, but she's been really good at racing in IMSA multi-class racing with lots of people on the track at the same time and I would say doing a good job of keeping the car clean.
And for you, Riley, when you look at racing, what I mean, what would you say to young ladies, or for both of you really, what would you say the biggest takeaway um for people that watch this program later this week? What do you want them to take away from your racing careers as a family?
Um, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I always want people to take away from our team is to be with your family and to find things in common to do with your family, especially young daughters with their fathers and people who in your family you think I don't really have anything in common with. Um, I think one of the things that I always like people to take away is to have a relationship with your dad and with your mom and be with your family because you only get one family. And as a family oriented team and like a family run team, we really try to push that we're a family run team and we just want everyone that's a family to come up to us and get autographs and stuff. Like when we do fan walks and stuff, it's always dads with daughters that come up to us and just they just like have such a connection to us and they always want to have that connection with their daughter even when they're like older and they're a teenager and they don't really want to hang out with their dad. And I think that's just a really special feeling to know that people can relate to us and little girls can kind of look up to our team and stuff like that.
And for you, why don't you piggyback off of what she just said? How do you feel about, what do you want? Are, are you in agreement with what she said, or do you have stuff to add, baby?
Well, I think from my standpoint as a dad, I mean, like I'm almost living the dream getting to go race with my daughter. I mean, I know there's a million other dads out there with teenage daughters who are like, I'd do anything to go do something with my daughter. So I would just encourage them to try to find that one thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be racing. It could be golf. It could be going bowling, whatever. Just something that you two can do together that will break down some of those "you're not cool dad" barriers because that's part of the problem. And so for me, one of the cool things is, well, like she said, we'll do the fan walk and they'll come up to get autographs, and the dads are as excited to show their daughters that, hey, look, a dad and a daughter doing something together. Maybe there's something we could do together too. So, that's kind of where we like to see people encouraged by what we're doing and you know I guess I would also say I don't really do it so we can encourage other people. That's just a great byproduct of it. But it's one of those things where we're just having fun and we're showing trying to remember to just have fun, but we get serious about it too. But we want everybody else to know that there's something I say special about the way we're trying to go about doing it.
And for you, Riley, I just, as you were talking, I just had something pop in my head, and regret myself to not ask you this question. If we start off on this interview, and I part of it, and that is so when young girls come up to you, are they like, congratulations that you're doing this with your dad? I wish I had a dad that would want to do this sort of thing with me. Or they just kind of like, oh my, I can't believe you're doing this with your dad, and really dumbfounded on what you guys have for a relationship, not only after it's crack, but on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the young girls that come up to me are like what you said first. Like they always say like I wish my dad raced, or I wish my dad wanted to do stuff like this with me, and vice versa with the dads who have daughters. They come up and they say, "Let me take a picture so I can show you my daughter like that you and your dad race together and they have something in common. I wish like me and my daughter had something like this." And a lot of like I just get that a lot. Like a lot of people that saying they wish they had something like this in common with their dad. And I think honestly you just have to really try to put in the effort to find something. Cause like even with my younger sister and my dad, they don't necessarily have the racing in common, but they are always trying to find different things to do together. Like my sister likes to play basketball, so my dad will put in the effort to go practice basketball with her and go to her games when he can. And it really helps to build those relationships.
Well, awesome. This is more time than I thought we'd have today, but I appreciate you guys being on Full Throttle today, and I look forward to watching you on Fox Sports 1, probably in January, in the intro series, supporting your guys' career. If you guys ever want to come back on, just let me know, and we'll schedule that around your schedule. But,
Okay.
but on behalf of Full Throttle, I'd like to thank you for coming on. And this has been Full Throttle with Justin Putzer. Goodbye, everyone.